Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The doctor is in, and joining me, my dear friend William.
Kia ora, Doc, and tēnā koutou kousies. This is the bro Willie from a small place called Waihi. Me and the Doc are back for another week of another week of horsing around and bringing you, the listeners, some choice stories that we've listened to ourselves.
Quite right, William, and this week's story is a bit of a doozy. Speaking of shenanigans, and not to mention tomfoolery, it's sure to be quite an experience indeed.
Oh, I used to know a fella called Tom Fu when I was little, would wander around Waihi all the time. Came from China, I think. Bit of a dirty old man with the ladies too.
Is that right, William? I hope he didn't find himself in any compromising positions.
Oh nah, he was a harmless old fella, eh? Used to teach the kids drunken boxing, though I think it was more the drunken and less the boxing, to be honest.
Oh dear. Well, it should also be noted that this week's story will be a little shorter in length than the last couple, just to give people something a little less daunting, a little less intimidating to listen to, just to ease yourselves into our unique brand of yarn spinning.
That's right, whānau, so you can listen to it at work, on your lunch break, when you're on the wharepaku, or when you're pretending to listen to the missus. Whatever's good for you, cuzzies.
Also, because of the smooth flow of this week's story, I believe it will be best to listen to it from beginning to end without interruption. So, no additionals from us for today, but we will still give our thoughts at the end. And to that end, should we dive right into it, William?
Oh, go with the flow, Doc. Do Mickey. Let's do it.
Right you are. Today's story is about a woman who has become so exasperated at the state of her seemingly failing marriage that she resorts to desperate and irresponsible acts in order to bring back the flames of ardour. However, her ill-conceived actions may push her husband so far to the edge that it may be too late to pull him back before he tragically takes a fall. As always, my manservant Arthur is here to narrate the tale of the day. Arthur, you may proceed when ready.
Very good, sir. As usual, Benny sat in his recliner, a beer in hand, watching a baseball game on the big screen TV. Paula went upstairs after dinner. He had no idea what she was doing and didn't pay it much mind. As far as he knew, it was just another night at home. However, shortly before 7, the doorbell rang. Before Benny could get up, Paula shouted from above, "Benny, could you please open the door?" Sure, I was just getting up." He walked to the door and opened it to see a well-dressed man who was unfamiliar to him. "Yes, can I help you? I hope you're not selling anything this late," he joked. No, I'm here to pick up Paula." Benny frowned. "Okay, for what?" The man replied, "We have a date." Benny's eyes bulged. "Sorry, come again?" "Your wife and I are going out on a date." Benny couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You and my wife, Paula?" "Yes," the man replied again. Benny stood there for a moment, trying to figure out what to do. "Let me call her." He went to the foot of the stairs and shouted up, "Paula, your date is here." He expected her to say, "What date?" or "This isn't really a date." Instead, she said, "Tell him I'll be right there." Benny just stood there, wondering what was going on when she entered the living room. She was wearing a short evening dress that showed off a lot of cleavage and had a lot of makeup on her face. Benny asked Paula, "What the hell is going on?" She replied, "I'm going on a date." Benny looked at her incredulously. Married women don't go on dates with anyone other than their husband. She rolled her eyes and said, "Well, I am. I'm tired of spending my evenings watching you drink beer and watch golf or some other exciting sport. The most I get out of you these days is a burp or a fart, and you don't even apologize anymore when you do it. When was the last time we did something exciting? If you can't give me any attention or the occasional chance to have fun, I'll find someone who can," she said while poking her index finger into his chest for emphasis. "Now, don't wait up for me. If I'm lucky, I might not be back until morning." She left, slamming the door behind her. Paula entered the waiting car and told the driver to go. Once they were a good distance away from home, he stopped and they both started laughing. Paula said, I wish I had taken a photo of his face. It was priceless. If this doesn't make him go from being a shiftless layabout to a normal, attentive husband again, then I don't know what will. Her companion replied, You don't think this might make him angry and may make the situation worse? Paula replied, I doubt it. He'll probably just sit there and wonder what happened. I'll be back before he gets too upset. I don't think he would consider divorce that quickly, but I'm willing to take the risk. I probably shouldn't have added that part about not being home until tomorrow. Oh well, it's too late to take it back now. Given the way our marriage is going, I think I would rather get a divorce than continue on like this. Damn him, I love the idiot to death, but I just wish he would care more about me and about us. Anyway, let's go around the block, then we'll come back and I'll see how he's doing. After driving around the block, Paula and her beau pulled into the driveway and parked. Benny didn't run outside like Paula had hoped. She walked in and didn't see him in the living room, even though the TV was still on. She took a quick look around the ground floor and then went upstairs. He was gone. She then called him on his mobile phone. She heard the ringing immediately and ran into the bedroom. She saw his cell phone on the nightstand, his wedding ring lying beside it. She looked around the room, concerned now. Several of his personal belongings were missing. Oh shit! Paula ran downstairs to tell her friend what had happened and then went to check if Benny's car was still in the garage. Of course, it was gone. The man asked, Where do you think he's gone? She shrugged. He probably went to the bar to get drunk. Worst case scenario, he might even spend the night in a motel. I imagine him sulking like a little child. He'll pay for it when he comes back and finds out I was just pranking him. On the other hand, his departure might be for the best after all. If he feels bad because he pushed me to go to such lengths to motivate him, then I don't mind letting him continue to feel bad a little longer. Benny didn't return or call that night, or the next morning. Later the next day, when Paula couldn't take it anymore, she called Benny's secretary around the time he was due back from lunch. Ellen, could you please put me through to my husband? The secretary replied, I'm afraid I can't do that, Paula. Unfortunately, he's not in. What do you mean he's not in? Why not? Have you heard from him at all? Yes, he came in this morning, staggering like he'd been drinking. I tried to ask if he was okay, but he just told me not to worry about it and to just listen carefully. He told me that he's taking the day off because he has some personal business to take care of. Then he asked me who handles our company's health insurance. I told him the name of the girl from HR who deals with that. He thanked me for helping, and then he left without saying another word. He didn't seem like himself at all. Do you know what has happened to him? Did a close relative die or something? Paula's heart dropped as she explained. I'm what happened to him. I pulled a prank on him that backfired. I need to talk to him and do a little ass-kissing and damage control now so that we can hopefully get back to normal. Could you please transfer me to that girl from HR that you referred him to? Sure, Paula. Just ask for Michelle, and I hope everything turns out okay. The line quickly transferred, and a voice answered. Human Resources, Sharon speaking. Hi there, Sharon. I'd like to talk to Michelle, please. I'm afraid Michelle is currently busy. Can I do anything to help? Paula sighed. Do you know what Benny White was querying in your HR department today regarding his health insurance? Sharon answered. I can look through his file, but I need his express permission to give you any information. Paula was becoming exasperated. I'm his wife and should have also been on the policy. Can you please tell me anything at all? Sharon exclaimed. I can look at your coverage according to his policy. Please hold for a minute. Paula felt her anxiety rising while she waited. Then Sharon came back on the line. It's a bit coincidental, but we were scheduled to contact you today. You should receive official notice in the mail that you're no longer covered by your husband's workplace health insurance. That seems to be the only thing he changed. Stunned, Paula simply sobbed, "Thank you," and hung up. Why did Benny take me off his health insurance? And then it dawned on her. She immediately went to her work computer to check their online bank accounts. Half the money had been withdrawn from their joint savings account. Oh shit, he's in the process of beginning divorce proceedings. Paula couldn't think straight and was lost as to what to do next. She was lost in thought for a moment before her phone rang. It was their life insurance agent and family friend, Archie. Hey Archie, what's up? She greeted. Paula, can you tell me what the hell is going on? Benny came here, cancelled the automatic payout on your life insurance and changed the life insurance beneficiary to the girls. No money is to go to you. In addition, automatic withdrawals for life insurance payments were transferred to a new account. When I questioned him, he simply said that he was sure that's how he wanted it. I'll have to send you a formal notice of the change of beneficiary and the termination of your life insurance benefits. I hate to think that you two are growing apart. I'm so sorry about this, Paula. Please come and see me as soon as possible so we can discuss your options regarding your life insurance going forward. I hate to ask, but am I right in thinking that you two might be looking at divorcing? Paula's shoulders slumped in resignation as she replied, "Thanks, Archie. I can't say anything about it at the moment." She said her goodbyes and hung up. Their lawyer neighbour and friend Cameron called Paula next. "Hi Paula, this is Cameron. Maybe you can shed some light on what the hell's going on. Benny came by today and changed his will so that the children get everything from him and you get nothing. He also removed you from the list of people who could act as his emergency contact and medical decision maker. He refused to tell me why and said he didn't care whether I told you or not. He then asked me for a referral to a family lawyer. I can only assume that you two are having some serious problems and are considering divorce. Look, I can always change things if you guys get back together. I'm really sorry this is happening. Nicole and I think very highly of you both. I have to run now, but I wish you both the best." Paula answered weakly, "Okay." The next call was from their twin daughters, who were in college together. "Mum, what the hell is going on? Dad called us and said that you had been dating and having sex with other men. Then he told us that he was going to go away for a while so that you could have the freedom to date other people before the divorce. He said that he took care of our future college expenses. We tried to ask him questions, but he ignored them. He told us to remember that he loved us and hung up. Mum, we're afraid that Dad will hurt himself. Can you tell us what happened to make him so depressed?" Tears were flowing down Paula's face. "I'm the idiot who made him depressed, and I'm trying to find him so I can apologize. The problem is that I can't find him. Maybe I can try... Oh, hey, I'm getting another call. It might be him." "Okay, Mum, but call us back and let us know he's okay." Paula quickly switched lines. "Benny?" she exclaimed. "No, Paula, this is your mother-in-law, Marie. What in the world is going on? My son called me, crying like a baby. He said something about you sleeping with a group of men you met in some nightclub. He seemed drunk, so I wasn't sure how true his story was. All I know is that he was very depressed. Anyway, he said he was going to solve the problem by giving you your freedom. The worst part is that he thanked me and his father for raising him right, after which he apologized for betraying his upbringing by letting us down. Then he said goodbye. I don't like his tone, Paula. He hung up before we could ask any more questions and wouldn't answer his phone when we tried to call him back. I'm afraid he might do something stupid. What happened between you two?" Paula hung her head in shame as she explained. "I tried to get Benny out of his empty nest rut so that he could start enjoying his life with his wife. I decided to try something crazy to get him out of his hole. I pretended I was going on a date with another man. I wasn't gone for more than 10 minutes, 10 lousy minutes. When I returned, he was no longer here. I found out today that he has done some things that make it seem like he's going to divorce me. I'm trying to find him to stop this madness, but I can't reach him to talk to him. His phone is still here, so he must have called you from someone else's." Marie's angry reply then issued from the phone. "So it's your fault that my son is possibly planning to kill himself. Let me tell you this, Paula. If he dies, I will hold you personally responsible." The phone suddenly went dead, as Marie had hung up. Paula couldn't think clearly. She called all the local hotels and motels. Benny wasn't listed as a client in any of them. She called the police and tried to file a missing persons report, telling them she was afraid he was going to hurt himself. This information didn't help her case at all. She was told that she would have to wait one more day before they could properly file the report. That night, Paula had to take sleeping pills to help her sleep. The terrifying thought that Benny could hurt himself or worse, that she might never see him again, is what was keeping her from sleeping. Luckily, she knew the code to the safe and had already checked and confirmed that the automatic pistol and ammunition he kept there was still present. She woke a little later, still exhausted, and turned on the news. A local news channel was broadcasting a live interview from the scene of an accident. "This is Philip Dodson of TV3 News. It appears that Friars Curve claimed another victim or victims last night. We're here with Sergeant Branton of the State Police. Sergeant, could you tell us what may have transpired here? Thank you, Philip. Unfortunately, a vehicle has driven off the cliff here. You can see here that the vehicle passed the strongest part of the reinforced barriers that would likely have prevented this incident. As you can see, there are no recent collision marks on the barrier, so the driver was either very unlucky or they knew what they were doing and did so deliberately. Given the lack of any skid marks or any other signs that brakes were applied or any effort at all to avoid these circumstances, it appears that the driver may have had a medical emergency and lost consciousness, may have been under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or, sadly, may have even attempted to take their own life, though this is all speculation until we can investigate further. The police were called by another motorist driving in the opposite direction. He's still here on scene as we ask him questions about what he witnessed. The camera then switched to a young man. The reporter approached him and started asking him questions. "Hello sir, I'm Philip Dodson with TB3 News and we'd like to get your take on what has happened here." The young man grinned mischievously. "Am I going to be on TV? Can I say hi to my mum? Hi mum." He smiled from ear to ear. "Alright sir, could you please tell us what you saw?" The witness started to give his account. "Well, I was driving home when I saw this big truck heading my way. He swerved a little and then moved into my lane. I tried to avoid a collision and he suddenly swerved back to the right very quickly, hit the end of the guardrail there and just went over the cliff." The reporter asked, "Could you describe the truck for us?" And the witness replied, "Yeah, it was a red Ford F-150. "And did you see who was driving it all?" "No, the truck's headlights were on and I only caught a glimpse of the man behind the wheel. At least it looked like a man. I don't think there was anyone else in there. That's about all I know, really." The reporter finished up. "Thank you. Back with the sergeant now. Sergeant, have you already called in help for the vehicle and persons involved in this incident?" The sergeant replied, "Well, we have called in for a search and recovery team to help with the salvage and rescue, but they're currently conducting search and rescue efforts in another part of the state. I don't know when they'll be able to get down here, although we are being kept updated. Unfortunately, our resources are just stretched extremely thin at the moment. The cliff is quite sheer, and it's already quite dark out here." "Alright, and do you think it's possible that the occupant or occupants of the vehicle could possibly be in need of urgent medical attention?" "Well, Philip, we always hold out hope in these situations, but we must also be prepared for the worst. It's highly possible that those involved in this incident didn't make it, especially given the circumstances of the collision and the nature of the terrain. As I said, our resources are stretched very thin, and we can't risk a rescue effort utilising personnel that are simply not trained to work in these conditions, as we could possibly put even more people at risk of being badly injured, or worse. Unfortunately, all we can do is wait for the mountain rescue team." Paula was crying hard now, and had been as soon as they said it was a red Ford F-150 that had been involved in the accident. She couldn't even hear the phone ringing. She was into her third hour of sobbing alone before the twins showed up after she hadn't answered their calls. They'd become worried and rushed home to be with her. Their grandmother called and told them the news on TV and about the red F-150. Despite having no confirmation yet, they were almost sure that it was their father who had crashed. The older twin answered her mother's phone and handed it to her. "Hello, this is Paula Wyatt speaking." She almost couldn't finish the sentence due to being so choked up. "Hello, Mrs. Wyatt. My name is Andrew Taylor. I'm an attorney in the same office where your friend Cameron works. Your husband hired me to represent him in his divorce proceedings. I probably shouldn't have called you, but Cameron talked me into it. I was contacted by the Wolverton police. They were called to the scene of a robbery earlier today. My client, that is, your husband, suffered a head injury at the scene. His wallet and keys were stolen. He's been taken to the emergency room. He was put into a medically induced coma and has been taken into surgery to relieve pressure on his brain. The police had no way to identify him since his wallet had been stolen and he had no other identifying information on him. The only thing he had with him was his motel room key. They traced the key to a room at a motel currently being occupied by a Benny Wyatt. Among the papers in his hotel room is a copy of the divorce agreement that he had me draft in order to begin proceedings. That's why they called me. Your husband retained me to handle the divorce, and he didn't want to have to deal with you directly in any way, but rather to go through me. I must tell you that you are currently not allowed to see him in the hospital. This decision is based on very clear verbal instructions given to me by my client Mr. Wyatt himself, as it directly pertains to his relationship with you. Your children, however, can visit him. As he has given me direct power of attorney, I have a say as to whether visitors are allowed or not. Paula couldn't believe what she was hearing. What? But he's my husband. Of course I can see him. I'm very sorry, Mrs. Wyatt, but the mandate he signed gives me and only me the exclusive right to make decisions regarding the divorce, as well as regarding his medical care. By law, I must follow his verbal instructions to the letter. If you would like to retain your own lawyer to contest this, I would act sooner rather than later. Paula was incredulous. Haven't the divorce proceedings been put on hold because of the condition he's in? No, ma'am. I was given clear instructions to pursue the divorce no matter what, although I don't think he foresaw that he would be robbed and assaulted. Does this mean that all financial insurance and beneficiary actions he has taken will not be reversed? That's correct, ma'am. All of these actions were undertaken by him personally, and at this point I have no express or direct instructions that they should be reversed. Paula was becoming irate. Of course he can't give direct instructions. He's in a coma. This is ridiculous. I pranked my husband into believing that I was going on a date with another man, and when I came back to tell him it was a prank, he had already left. He had left his cell phone behind, so I couldn't call him to tell him it was a prank. There's no reason for the divorce, and no reason for the actions he took regarding the prank. Benny's lawyer was as calm as ever. I mean no disrespect, ma'am, but that's what you're saying happened now. I must follow what Mr. White instructed me to do. Confirmed in writing, signed, and witnessed. I don't have any other choice. I regret to inform you, but tomorrow you will be served at work as Mr. White requested. Once you get a lawyer, please ask him or her to contact me as to how we proceed going forward. Paula was now livid. I don't care what you say. He's my husband and I'm going to see him if I want. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Mrs. White. The envelope you'll be receiving contains a restraining order, ordering you to stay at least 1,000 feet away from him. The settlement he proposed is very generous. He stated that he wants you to have a chance with the man you really want now. Paula told the children what the lawyer said. It was impossible to believe. She said she would go to the hospital no matter what they said. The girls agreed to accompany her. When she got there, she didn't get very far. The hospital hadn't received a copy of the restraining order, but was not allowing any visitors due to COVID restrictions for all hospital patients. They said that once he was transferred to the intensive care unit, he would be able to have visitors, but only one person for 10 minutes every 2 hours. Paula and her daughters returned home, exhausted by the experience. By the time Benny was admitted to the intensive care unit, the restraining order had already been granted. One daughter could visit him, but what good would that do? He was unconscious, and if he understood anything they were saying in his condition, he could give no sign. A few days later, the mountain search and rescue team found the truck. It was assumed that the dead man behind the wheel was the same man that had robbed and assaulted Benny. His wallet was there, along with several bottles of rare Kentucky bourbon, one of which was more than half empty. As time went by, Paula found herself in a difficult financial situation. With Benny in a coma, the couple's joint account, which paid the mortgage and other bills, was frozen during the proceedings. Paula actually hired a lawyer who asked the court to give her access to half the money remaining in the account. The time came to bring Benny out of his medically induced coma and back to consciousness. When he woke up, he was given a memory test. He quickly realized that this was exactly what they were doing and immediately decided to pretend he had in fact lost his memory. He said he didn't know who he was. After more tests, the diagnosis was amnesia caused by blunt force head trauma. He also claimed he didn't remember the lawyer who had his power of attorney. In his condition, he wasn't considered sufficiently able to allow the restraining order to be lifted. He was told that his daughters wanted to see him. Madison, one of the twins, was the first to see him. He asked her who she was. "Dad, I'm one of your daughters, Madison. You were attacked and were put into a coma. We were waiting for you to wake up." Benny looked puzzled. "We?" Madison replied, "Yes, Dad, we. Me, Bree and Mum. Your wife." "I have a wife?" "Yes, Dad." "Well, why isn't she here?" "She isn't allowed to be here. You two had a misunderstanding, and there's a restraining order against her." "Oh my God. Does she want to hurt me or something? Did she have something to do with this?" Madison tried to calm him down. "No, Dad, she poses no threat to you. You were really angry at her because she pretended she was going on a date with another man. Before she came back to tell you it was a prank, you had already left and started divorce proceedings. Now that you're awake, you can undo all of this. And how do I know this woman you call my wife didn't go on an actual date? Because she says she didn't do it. It was just a prank. Didn't you just say that she said she was going on a date? Well, yes, but it was a lie. So she lied about being on a date, but then turns out to be telling the truth about not going on a date? I may not remember you or her, but I'm not a fool. I have to assume I took action to protect myself. I'm sorry, miss, but your 10 minutes are up. You'll have to leave right now. Madison left in tears. 2 hours later, his second daughter arrived. Well, back so soon? We only just talked earlier tonight. His daughter replied, No, that was Madison, my twin sister. I'm Bree. Do you really not recognize me? I'm sorry, but not yet. I understand that your mother and I were separated. Were we on good terms at least? Of course we're on good terms, Dad. Our mother played a prank on you. You left and were attacked and suffered a head injury before she could tell you it was only a prank. You started taking steps towards divorce before you ever knew. You have to stop this, Dad. I don't know what I have to do. I don't even know if you're my daughter or not. I don't know who my wife is, or even if I have a wife. I don't think I should do anything before I get my memory back. If it does come back. I was told I have a lawyer. You have 2 of them, apparently. One for regular cases and one for divorce. Okay, maybe if I talk to him it will help me refresh my memory. Can you contact him or her and ask them to come and visit me? Of course, Dad. Anything that can help bring back your memory. Could you please let Mum come and visit you? It kills her that she can't see you and apologise. Benny shook his head. I don't think I would feel safe around her. Maybe later. Bree had brought photographs and talked about personal shared experiences to jog his memory, but all efforts were in vain. Sometime later, his divorce lawyer paid him a visit. Mr. Wyatt, I'm Andrew Taylor, your family law attorney. Do you remember me? Benny answered the question with his own question. Is everything we talk about confidential? Andrew replied, Absolutely. Good, Benny said. I don't actually have amnesia. I'm trying to figure out what to do about my divorce. What I do remember is that I told you to give her more in the settlement so that she could move on without me. That's right, she was served and eventually hired her own lawyer. Did you want me to terminate my services and end the divorce proceedings? Not yet. I need you to investigate her supposed prank and let me know what you find. Sure, I can hire someone on your behalf if you allow me to do so. Benny was resolved. Do it. He continued to pretend that he had amnesia and continued to talk to his daughters, ignoring their pleas to see their mother and stop the divorce. He was waiting for the report from his lawyer, and it arrived a few days later, delivered by Andrew in person. According to private detectives, there wasn't enough evidence to prove whether she went on a date or not. The man she was with swears nothing happened, but he's married and may be afraid to tell the truth. It's up to you whether you choose to believe her or not. Benny sighed. I was afraid of this. Thanks for the info. I think it's time for me to get my memory back. I want you to continue with the divorce process. Madison was the first to hear him actually say her name from memory. Soon after that, the memories came flooding back, including the night of Paula's betrayal, or her deception, depending on which version you believe. He agreed to meet with her. After hugs and tears, Paula began. Benny, it was only a prank, a stupid prank to try to get you to change. Tony and I only drove around the block, but by the time we got back you were gone. Benny's brow furrowed. How do I know this is true? Paula replied, I can get Tony to come and tell you. He was the one who helped me pull off this prank. So I have to take the word of the man you possibly cheated on me with? And this person is going to try and convince me that you didn't cheat on me? Sorry, I may have been born at night, but I wasn't born last night. Paula was desperate. I tried to call you, but you had left your phone at home. I sat waiting for you all night, but you never came back. Benny asked her, Was anyone with you at the house while you were waiting for me? Tony stayed there for a couple of hours and then went home after a while. I waited to hear from you until the next day, when I called your office. That's when I learned that you took a scorched earth approach to my fake romance. It seemed like you couldn't wait to get rid of me. You told me, right to my face, that you were going to step out on me, on our marriage. You said you wanted another man while he stood right in front of me in my own house. I was devastated and humiliated, but because I loved you, I wanted to give you what you wanted one last time. I no longer wanted to be married to you because you no longer kept our marriage vows. Why prolong the agony? Let's go ahead and get a divorce. Paula was crying as she said, I don't want a divorce. I wasn't planning to cheat on you and I never did. I wanted to encourage you to fight for me and bring some life back into our marriage. Clearly I chose the wrong way to do this. I'm so sorry. Please, Benny, stop the divorce and let's get back to our lives. I loved you, Paula. Even if what you said was true or not, but I still don't believe you. You played a cruel, vile prank on me. I don't know if I want to stay married to a woman who does these things. I'm currently continuing the divorce process and will be moving into my own apartment when I leave the hospital. Benny, this is such a waste of money. You have a home and a bed. I'll move to another room in the house for a while if that's what it takes to get you back. Benny sadly shook his head. Visiting time is over and I want to see my daughters. Paula was sent out of the ward. The twins tried to support their mother as best they could. Neither of them could confirm how much time their mother had spent with Tony that night, so it didn't matter to Benny. When it was time for him to check out, he actually moved into an apartment near where he worked. The divorce proceedings continued until it got to the point where Paula's lawyer demanded mandatory counselling for them. 12 sessions. Benny offered no resistance. Paula went first. I love my husband very much. We've had such a wonderful marriage and have raised 2 wonderful girls together. I think empty nest syndrome hit him harder than it did me. I wanted to fill this gap by spending more time with him, doing different things rather than just physically being together in the same house. Benny seemed to become distant from me, from our marriage. Our sex life remained the same plain sex as when the girls were still living with us, to keep them from hearing. Their leaving didn't change anything for Benny. I decided to shake him up so that he would pay more attention to me. I convinced a male friend from work to join me in what I will call shock therapy. One evening I pretended to go on a date with him. He and I drove around the block so I could come back and tell Benny it was a prank to get him angry and passionate about our marriage again. When we returned 10 minutes later, he was gone and I had no chance to talk to him. I waited until the next day when I called his office and found out that he had taken steps to begin divorce proceedings. It was a couple of days later when I found out that Benny had been robbed and was in a coma. When he came out of his coma, he didn't believe that my fake date was a ruse and I wasn't actually going out with other men. He has been seeking a divorce ever since. I apologize for my wrong actions and beg him to give me a second chance. The counsellor turned to Benny. Benny, what's your take on what happened? Now it was Benny's turn. She's accurate in some of what she said, but she left out a few details. When her boyfriend showed up, she not only told me she was going to date him despite my objections, she told me that she hoped to spend the night having sex with him. At that moment, I knew my marriage was dead. I assumed it was my fault that our marriage failed, so I wanted to leave as soon as possible. I left my home so she could have the man she wanted, and I could start over too. I took steps to begin the separation. I gave power of attorney to my lawyer because I didn't even want to think about Paula anymore, let alone talk to her. I would give her a generous divorce and move on with my life. How could I have foreseen that I'd be mugged or robbed? I certainly didn't expect that I would be in a coma. When I came out of the coma, I didn't remember who I was. Sometimes I wish I'd stayed in the coma and never regained my memories of that night. Paula says she didn't actually go on the date but can't provide any evidence. In my opinion, it's just as likely that she actually went on the date and slept with this guy Tony. I honestly think she only changed her mind when she realized what all this would mean for her socially and financially. Now I'm being asked to believe that it was just a prank. Now I have to go back to living with a woman who didn't mind breaking my heart. Even if she's telling the truth, she is someone who has proven that she is ready to hurt me whenever she sees fit. How am I supposed to live with that? Every evening when I come home, I have to worry about what awaits me. A loving wife or a cheater going on a date? It would be cleaner if we divorced. She and Tony can have a life together and I can try to move on. The counsellor regarded both Benny and Paula. It seems we have a lot to sort through. That's how the sessions went, with everything at a standstill, going around in circles, until Paula brought Tony along to one of the sessions. Benny, I just wanted to apologise for my participation in the prank. Paula assured me that everything would be fine. I was very doubtful when she got into my car. I swear, we only drove around the block before we came right back to the house. She was shocked to find that you had left and abandoned your phone when she found it in your room. I stayed with her for a while, waiting for you to return. For most of that time she just complained about what we had done and how much you meant to her. After a while I just left. I'm truly sorry for my part, Benny. Paula added, Do you believe me now, Benny? Benny turned a suspicious eye on both Paula and Tony. His words certainly sound sincere, but maybe he's just a good actor. Paula hung her head. Benny, there seems to be nothing I can do to prove to you that it was just a prank. I know you are finding it hard to believe me right now, but I promise you I will never do anything like this again. Can't we try to build trust again? Benny rubbed his chin. Let's see. You lied to me that night when you told me that you were going to spend the night with Tony. Then you claim that nothing actually happened. You keep saying and saying again that you're not lying. Now you want me to believe that you won't do anything like that again in the future. How do I know where the lie ends and the truth begins? It all comes down to trust, Benny. If we want to start repairing our relationship, our marriage, you'll have to learn to trust me again. If you truly can't bring yourself to do this, then I'll agree to the divorce. The counsellor spoke. I have a suggestion. How about a post-nuptial agreement that stipulates that if Paula does this again, you get all the property and the majority of assets in the divorce? Would you be willing to sign this, Paula? Paula nodded emphatically. Yes, of course I would. Anything to try fixing what has been broken. Paula came over and hugged Benny. Slowly, Benny integrated back into his marriage to Paula. Quite a long time passed before he and Paula found themselves in the same bed again. Their interactions were very fragile for a while. Over time, they developed a relationship that included more walks, doing household projects together, visiting their daughters and travelling. Their sex life was more active than before the incident. Paula began to feel comfortable, and Benny started to settle in again. One day at home, Benny called and told Paula not to cook dinner. It looked like they might be planning to go out to eat. He ended the call quickly so Paula didn't get an actual reason not to cook. She thought about the reorganization going on at his job due to the merger and assumed that he had received good news about his position and that they were going to celebrate. Benny came home soon after and immediately went upstairs. I'm just going up to quickly get changed, was his only comment on his way up. Soon after, the doorbell rang. Paula opened the door, and standing in front of her was a woman who looked about 10 years younger than both her and her husband. She was very attractive and dressed professionally. Yes, can I help you? Hi there, the woman replied. You must be Mrs. Wyatt. I'm here to meet Benny. Paula remembered the incident that she had been trying to forget. She thought he was finally trying to get his revenge on her. She suddenly had an idea. She invited the woman to come in. You have a lovely home, Mrs. Wyatt. Thank you. Please have a seat. I'll just let Benny know you're here. She shouted up, Benny, your visitor's here. His answer was a little muffled, and she assumed he said he would be down in a bit. She returned to the woman. Paula was about to ask her a question when she heard Benny coming down the stairs. She immediately took action and wrapped her hands around the woman's throat, beginning to lightly choke her. You bitch! You're trying to steal my husband, aren't you? You homewrecker! The woman, whom Paula took to be part of a revenge prank, began to struggle. Benny screamed, Paula, stop! What the hell has gotten into you? Paula started laughing. Ha! Don't even try to pretend. I caught you trying to pull a prank on me this time. Benny looked at her furious. What are you talking about? This is my new merger manager, Marilyn Cage. Marilyn, I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over her. Marilyn glared at him and stared daggers at Paula. I like to think that those I'm in charge of are sound of mind and stable of emotion, whether during working hours or outside. You can kiss the new position goodbye if this is what you consider sound and stable. Now that my ride has already left, I'll be outside, waiting by your car for you to take me back to the hotel." Benny was distraught. "Marilyn, please give me a chance to explain. Please don't be hasty." She quickly exited the house as Paula looked on, shocked at the turn of events, her face a mask of disbelief and panic. Benny slowly turned to her, his eyes full of anger. "Thank you so much, Paula. Just when I think our marriage is back on track after your attempts to ruin it, now you want to ruin my career. Now this is what's going to happen. I'm going to leave to take Marilyn back to her hotel and try to salvage what's left of my job, but I don't think I have anything left in me to save what's left of our marriage anymore." He quietly headed out the door. Paula ran upstairs and fell onto the bed, sobbing. "What's wrong with me? What have I done?" She felt nothing but utter hopelessness and the deepest despair she had ever known. About 15 minutes later, Benny and Marilyn returned to the house. He came inside and called out to Paula to come downstairs. She quickly rushed down, and they explained to her that she was being played after all, while wearing huge grins on their faces. Paula threw her arms around Benny and clung to him as if for dear life, screaming that she was so sorry while crying hysterically. As it turned out, Marilyn was actually the subordinate, and Benny was now the head of his own department. She apologized to Paula for her part in the prank and told her that she was afraid that Paula would actually hurt her, but Benny soon convinced her that everything would be okay and that he'd intervene if things went too far. In the end, the prank was worth it. Paula finally got to the point where she could share the laughter with them. Marilyn apologized once more and told Benny and Paula to have a wonderful evening before departing. Later, Benny and Paula went out for dinner and a few drinks to celebrate his promotion. When they got home, she went to clean up the kitchen before going to bed. Benny went upstairs and immediately saw that his pistol, which he kept locked up in his safe, was lying on Paula's nightstand. Upon examining the gun, he discovered that there was a bullet in the chamber and the safety was off. A cold feeling of dread overcame him as his heart sank into his stomach.
Another week and another tale done and dusted. Now we will give our final thoughts. William, the floor is yours.
"Oh, kia ora, Doc. Well, to be brutally honest, I think this wahine is a bit mixed up in the head to do what she did to her hubby. I've seen these stupid cheating pranks before on social media and often wonder what's wrong with these people. What's in their heads? Do they really think it's a good idea to rock their partners up so much? All it takes is the wrong person on the wrong day taking it the wrong way for things to go really badly, if you ask me. And even if they don't totally lose it, I'm pretty sure that seed of doubt is planted now. Why would you want to do that? Anyway, I'm glad the people in our story managed to sort things out, but it was still a pretty close one, right on the razor's edge."
Do you mean razor's edge, William?
"Nah, Doc, Raiders Edge. I watched the game the other night. Those fellas are bloody hoha."
I see. Oh, but adding to what my friend here said, I cannot help but agree. I can certainly understand that relationships, and especially marriages of a long term, can certainly become stagnant after a time, and people can begin taking for granted that the ones they love will always be there no different, and even in spite of their lackluster and possibly even abysmal behavior. However, I'm quite sure there are much better methods to revitalize and bring the spark back, as it were, to a marriage whose sharpness has started to dull over time, rather than the foolishness undertaken by the woman in this tale. She is very, very lucky indeed that things did not end on a more disastrous note, and even luckier still that her husband chose to remain her husband. As you say, William, right on the Raiders' edge.
Ha, you're getting it now, Doc.
Thank you, William, and thank you all for listening, as we have once again come to the end of another tale for another week.
Oh, ka pai, Doc, and ka pai to all of you cousins that joined us once again for another one. We hope to see you all again next week. Have a good one, whānau, ka kite.
Indeed, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, as well as sharing with your friends and family who might enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. Also, please feel free to comment with your own thoughts, opinions, and ideas, as we would love to hear from you. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, cheerio!